everyone's busy, everyone's going through life, but one of the things that can really upset the routine in a family is when the spouse travels and leaves the remaining parent behind. I'm not bitter and twisted at all, can you tell? Anyway, today we are talking about what it is like solo parenting, but from both of our perspectives. Maybe a bit more from Ryan, because I've talked about solo parenting way too much on this channel. It is way too much part of my personality, and I wish it wasn't the case. But I think the reality is, for a lot of us out there, we are going to be parenting on our own with little kids at home at least once. Someone is going to have to travel in some capacity, and for us it's quite a lot. So make sure you stay till the end of the video, because we are going to share our top tips, which even if your spouse doesn't travel, I feel like will be really helpful to save you a lot of time and make you feel more calm in your parenting, and things that we have had to learn the hard way. But before we get started, if you're new here, hello, my name is Julie. I'm a mom of 3, along with my husband Ryan over here.
Hi.
I'm a parenting coach, and I help moms feel less overwhelmed, get more in touch with their intuition, be able to parent from a place of peace and calm, and feel less overwhelmed. So if that is something that's interesting to you, make sure you check out the links down below, and make sure that you subscribe to this channel. Click that little notification bell. Make sure you make it ring so that you know every time we upload a new video to the Confident Parenting Podcast. I almost knocked my microphone over. And give this video a like if you enjoy going into deep dives about parenting, talking about things that I don't think are spoken enough about on the internet. Wow, that was a mouthful. Okay, so Ryan's gonna kick us off, and he's gonna describe a little bit about our current routine when it comes to solo traveling. Oh, not solo traveling, when it comes to parenting and him traveling, because he's the one that does it the most. So I thought you should kick us off.
Sure. Happy to. I guess I'm the root of the problem. So essentially I work a job where I have to typically travel last minute to meet clients, mainly from a Tuesday to Thursday sort of thing. So I like to really ensure that I don't travel Monday or Friday, although I've been breaking that rule somewhat recently given
Why don't you want to travel Monday or Friday?
Because I like to at least have some consistency with the family and spend time at home.
Okay.
And I think Monday and Friday at least does put
it's like psychologically, it's like
put some routine
bookend of the weekend.
And I feel, we'll get into it, I think gives the kids some type of consistency. And I like to start the week and end the week at home, although that's been a little hard with some of the conferences that I've been having to do. But typically it's going to see clients, and it's not really predictable.
That's the key.
Yeah, which is a bit of a problem. So a lot of it means me leaving, and I always will try and maximize time at home. So I'll leave early Tuesday morning, and then try to come back like late Thursday night. I really don't like to fly the night before. And just try and minimize the impact to the family as much as possible.
Yeah, so just to summarize, and we don't need to spend too much time on this, but we have chosen to live in Austin, Texas. And honestly, I reflect on this a lot because he travels so frequently. Like, would it be better if we lived somewhere else? But even if we lived in New York City, like we used to live, or LA, or one of the big cities, Chicago, you would still need to travel a ton. And there are many reasons why we chose to live here, but one of the reasons is that Texas is central to the rest of the country, the rest of the US. So typically Ryan's kind of flying coast to coast, sometimes to Chicago, sometimes centrally. And so this way, you are doing these shorter 2-3 hour flights. If you're someone who is in the world of consulting or finance or something, you know that grueling travel schedule. And if you live on the East Coast and you have a client in LA, you're doing 6-hour flights regularly. There's a 3-hour time change. It's rough on your body. So I think it's good that we live where we do, but there's always this thing at the back of my mind, like, would you be able to travel less if we lived in New York? I don't know. It really depends. And the key thing that he mentioned is that it's unpredictable. We can't plan it. And so that makes things a lot harder. But basically, our current setup is that I stay at home with the kids the majority of the time, and Ryan travels, I guess on average every other week. Sometimes it's 2 weeks in a row. Sometimes he's going to 3 or 4 cities in 1 week. It's a lot. So I guess I also wanted to ask you.
Well, I think we also need some context, right? And I think if you've watched some of our previous videos, we've shared that we sort of immigrated from South Africa. We don't have any family here, so we're typically it's just, I mean,
It's just us.
solo parenting together. So I think that puts a lot of strain.
Duo parenting.
Yeah.
But there's no like wider village.
Yeah.
I feel like people are gonna be like, Julie, why don't you just make some friends? Just like, but it's not that simple. There's certain things that you can ask friends to help you with, and then there's certain things that are just too, like, they're kind of a family, they're reserved for family. I don't know. So yeah, so that is a big piece of it, and I try not to hop on this too much either. Again, also part of my personality that I'm on my own here, out of choice though. So, it's kind of it's a tricky one, but yeah, we don't have a third adult or something,
or grandparent,
grandparents to come and like stay with me when he's traveling, or just drop the kids off and then I can have a break. There's none of that. It's us in the trenches, and we've spoken about in some of our previous videos that I'll link down below how that has strengthened our relationship, because it's like sink or swim. We have to work as a team or the whole thing's gonna fall apart. But it's tough, it's hard. And our kids currently are 9, 7, and 3. So we have been doing this travel thing, I mean, your entire career, but since we moved to Austin, that was about 3.5 years ago, and you've been traveling a lot. And it's gotten a little bit easier as the kids get a little bit older, but it's still hard and I still hate it. And I don't know if I should like it more, but so I want to know about your experience, because there's so many moms talking online and I don't know if the dads are talking enough, and I hope there's some dads watching or some non-primary, I don't know how, anyway, the person who travels, I hope that person is watching, because I want to be inclusive of everyone, because I think I get a lot of sympathy, I guess, if I tell people that my husband is away. People can really, if you're a mom, really relate to that. But what is it like being the person that's away and receiving those phone calls? Come home!
Well, I think it's obviously stressful. I think there's a lot of guilt that you start off with and continue to have. I think people think that business travel is glamorous, but it's not really.
It's really not.
It's a lot of working on planes, rushing. It's not like when I go
no sleep.
Yeah, it's not like when I go to LA or New York, I'm going to go see the sights, right? It's just really running to a meeting, staying in the hotel, running into the plane. And so there's a lot of pressure as well, because you typically have to do your day job over and above all the travel you have. So it's just trying to make planes, trains, and automobiles and run around. And I think the biggest issue I have is that sometimes you just feel helpless. Like if there's an issue at home, you can't really help out. And you have to find ways to be supportive. I think my personality is just to be very solution oriented, and I think it's a lot of husbands where it's just like, find problem, let's get a practical solution and move on.
Rescue the situation.
And I think a lot of it has to do with learning to have empathy and really just be a sounding board and kind of just, really help you sort of vent in some ways. And I think it's always things always seem to happen when I travel, right, where the smoke alarm goes off at 3 a.m. and we can't turn it off.
Yeah, that's happened.
Or the 3-year-old doesn't want to get
she
changed.
gets sick. A child gets sick, Yeah.
And so it's a lot of trying to be helpful from afar, and it's tough. And I think the kids don't really enjoy it. So they're always like, when you're packing your bag, they're like, Daddy, please don't go. And that feels terrible and awful. And so it's not exactly plain sailing, I think, for the person traveling. So a lot of it really comes down to communication and just finding ways to be supportive. And I think in many ways we've sat down a lot and spoken about how can we do things to make it better. But before I guess we get to that, what has your experience been of it?
I mean, I think we've gotten better over time, and we'll talk about it, but something that you don't think about is the lack of sleep because your partner is away, or as the partner, like, we complain to each other that we don't sleep well, the next morning he's gone, and then we talk to each other on the phone the next morning or something, and it's like, how did you sleep? Not great. Like, either he missed a trip is cancelled, or you're getting into a hotel room at like 1 a.m. because remember, he's trying to stay at home for as long as possible, and I'm like, I'm worried about him like overstressing himself. The last thing we need is like something horrible to happen. And so he doesn't have a lot of choice over when planes fly. And that's another thing, like living in Austin, we're not in a Dallas or Houston or New York. And so there's often less choice in airplane times, But anyway, so all that said, you're getting into a hotel room at like 1 a.m. or whatever time. And it's scientifically proven that you don't sleep well, not in your bed. It takes a human body, it takes a few days to get adjusted to a place, and you don't have a few days. Never mind if there's a time change. I mean, last 2 weeks ago or something, you flew East Coast, then all the way West Coast in like 2 days. So it's like a lot, and then you're on Central Time typically. It's like a lot, it's not healthy for your body. But then for me too, because I'm alone and I'm used to sleeping next to somebody and just having that extra peace of mind, you know, like two of us in a house with kids, like I just don't sleep well. And the other thing that happens, and we'll talk about this as well, but I have revenge bedtime procrastination where, because I've been with the kids all day by myself and we're not sharing the responsibility and there's just no other adult there and we're not going to bed at the same time, I behave like a little child and I want to stay up as late as possible and have no one telling me to go to bed because I'm a grown up, but also my husband's not there to be like, we need to go to bed. I go to bed way too late. And you'll know that when you go to bed way too late, you struggle to fall asleep and then the alarm's still going to go off at that time. It's just, I think for both of us, it's like a lot of responsibility and a lot riding on us individually. Like if I don't wake up at the time I set my alarm, my children are going to be late for school and it is going to be a mad panic and it's going to be very unpleasant. If you don't get what you need done, there's also going to be consequences. And so it's very stressful. So we have some ideas and some things that have worked for us. And I think you can really take these solutions into your daily life. Like we should be doing this, and we do try, whether Ryan is traveling or not. And because he travels so erratically, I think it is great for us to have a routine and to do these things. But yeah, let's talk about some of the things that you found have really moved the needle when it comes to helping us as a family navigate all of this, like solo parenting and travel and work away from home and things like that, or travel, you know what I mean?
Well, I think the key is planning, and so
communicating.
And communication. I think the biggest sort of issue I think the hardest part of the day is the 5 o'clock to 8 o'clock bedtime, dinner, witching hour, and I think a lot of our focus has been how do we get ready for that. So I think the first thing we did was we created a meal plan, really had a bunch of different meal plan by week with a bunch of different options, and really committing to advance which meal plan we're going to do, and then actually cooking the meals in advance and freezing them. That means being super organized and coordinated on like grocery buying and just getting really prepped from a food perspective, which I think has been super helpful. And I think that took a lot of stress just initially getting that right. And I think we should share that meal plan.
I'll put a link to the meal plan that we use down below. It's nothing fancy. It's just that decision of like, what are we going to have for dinner gets taken away when you have it planned out. And the food is not even for me. Like a lot of the time I don't even end up eating with them, or I don't know, I'm doing 5 million things when he's away. But our children need food. So what I have found really helpful is meal prepping ingredients. So making bolognese sauce, and then I can make fresh pasta, but I have the sauce already made, and we can warm it up easily. Or we do this dish called South African chicken. It's like a casserole chicken dish, super easy. We serve it with rice. Okay, so we just boil some rice on the side, because that time after school before bedtime for me is I'm really tired and depleted, especially now with the background that I don't sleep very well when he's not here. So I just really wish that I had help during that time, and having dinner taken care of. I know what I'm going to make, or I'm just going to add a few extra little bits, or it's already made and it's prepped in the fridge. That really helps. But obviously with meal planning, you need to do groceries, and you need to then actually physically make the food. So we spend usually, we have spoken about how erratic his travel is, but we will know probably a week in advance or a few days in advance that he's going to be leaving. So Ryan has often taken sort of a few hours on a Sunday to go grocery shopping, and then maybe just cook up a few things that are just like low stress to do it on the weekend, with the intention that we would eat it on like Monday or Tuesday. So that's really important. I think doing anything that you can ahead of time, like any errands or chores ahead of time when your spouse is going to be out of town, is really helpful. So for us, meals is like a major part of that. So another kind of stressful time for me as a single parent when he's not here is the morning. We have to be out the door pretty early, like ideally 7:25-ish, to get the kids to school on time, or just avoid some of the traffic. And getting 3 little kids organized when they're kind of still waking up, especially the little one, is tough. And I have found that she does not behave the same when he's not here. She can't even verbalize that. Like, she doesn't say to me, I miss daddy. I mean, sometimes she does, but it's like she won't get dressed. So I literally have to put her kicking and screaming in the car seat in her pajamas. I pack all of her school clothes in a bag. Usually she's dressed before we go to school. Like when he's here, I don't know if we've ever had to do this, but I've had to several times dress her in the parking lot. And like Ryan's like, ugh, like it's just, this is happening again. I don't know what it is, like she senses weakness in the leadership, but she doesn't want to get dressed. And sometimes she's fine, but it's so unpredictable and it leaves you sort of on tenterhooks wondering how she's going to behave. The older ones are much better and they've gotten more helpful as time has gone on because they want to get to school on time. They want to get to school early. They don't like to be rushed. And so I've had to really try and explain to them and hammer this in that if you want to be at school on time, you have to help me. And so one of the good things of him traveling is that they are more motivated to learn how to do certain chores and be helpful. And I think that's something we want to teach them anyway. But my older one, when it's trash day, he'll take out the trash. He'll take out the actual trash cans and like put them on the sidewalk. He will open all the blinds. They will hang up the laundry for us. You know, they like get out the lunch boxes.
Get the school bags ready.
Yeah, just do things that they can. Put the school bags in the car, like anything that they can do to help in the morning will speed up the process for us all getting into the car. And it also gives me wiggle room if the 3-year-old has a meltdown about something, she doesn't want to let me brush her hair or eat anything or get dressed, you name it, she's done it, then I have a bit more time because they're a bit more independent, dressing themselves. There's certain things they still can't do, like I do our daughter's hair because it's hard for her to do it, but that'll come with time. And I think also along with those lines is I try and prepare as much as I can the night before. And we do that anyway. If you're here, we do that anyway. We get their clothes out, we prepare their lunch boxes, I don't know, we just clean up the kitchen and make it like we reset the kitchen every night before bed. Yeah. It's kind of become our habit and our routine. And that does make things a lot easier in the morning. But it's still like stressful for me.
Yeah, I think the realization is these things can be a little painful and stressful, but they don't need to be. And I think if you can prep and plan ahead of time and just realize that there's, not everything's going to be smooth sailing with sometimes you're going to have to dress her in the car. But I think if you can get some of these basic building blocks of having everything ready the night before and also just, really sometimes directing them and getting them to help, I think it's super impactful.
Yeah, sometimes I get really frustrated because I'm like, we do the same thing every day. Why don't you just do it? But I'm sure it's just part of being a child. Like they just don't think about it. My son would rather read a book than go and open all the blinds. And it's not that he's unwilling or unhelpful. He just needs to be told. And even that sometimes feels frustrating for me. I'm like, we do this every morning. You have to make your bed every morning, But it's just it's a lesson I have to learn in patience and flexibility. And along those lines of just being more emotionally intelligent, I think not underestimating how having one parent amiss affects the children. I've had our 9-year-old tell us, I don't like it when daddy travels because then we're late for school or it makes me nervous, and he doesn't like fire alarms, understandably so. And we've had that happen when Ryan's not here, so then he's like concerned that maybe the fire alarm's going to go off again, the smoke detector. He's like introspective in that way and thoughtful, and so then he's like letting these things, he's thinking about this kind of stuff, and it's just unsettling. But I need to be confident and strong in how so that they feel settled and stable in when I'm the only one looking after them, but letting them express that they don't like that daddy's gone. I mean, I don't like it either, so not versus just dismissing it. And I think the 3-year-old, she doesn't necessarily have the capabilities to tell me that, but she does it through her actions. Actions speak louder than words.
And I'll try to FaceTime and talk to them as much as I can, typically when they're driving to school or before bedtime, So I'll try to
we try. Yeah. I mean, I often call him when we're on the way to school because everybody's in the car. And again, it just depends, like, what time zone are you on? Are you on a plane? Like, you can't always do that. It's not always convenient. And, sometimes it's frustrating because he'll call me when I'm in the middle of like dinner or bath time or and he's trying to check in and be considerate, but it's sometimes just it's just manic and you just feel alone. And I think having that communication and, as you say, just being that sounding board, because what can you really do? I mean, there's certain things you could help me with from a distance, like administrative wise, but most of the stuff, like the hands-on stuff, you can't do. And something else that I have found is helpful is, when you're solo parenting, even though you're surrounded by living beings, it can be very lonely as the only adult. The same when if you're like a mom at home with your little kids and your spouse is away all day long. So I try and go for like coffee dates with my friends, or if we get invited out to someone's house for dinner, and then that means I can take the kids and we go and have dinner. I've done that a few times. I try and not add extra work to my plate. So when Ryan is traveling, I probably wouldn't have a dinner party without him. So I could invite people over, but that just feels like even more children and more responsibility. So, but if someone invites me, I would maybe do that. I'm just not in the routine of like taking them out for dinner on my own. I mean, I have done it. It's not ideal. I mean, I just try and keep the routine as solid as possible. Try and especially get the little one to bed on time. That's really helpful, because when she's asleep, then it's like a little easier.
Yeah.
You know, that we have a 9 and a 7-year-old, like they're fully capable of doing stuff. And yes, I do want them to go to bed so that the house can be quiet, but it's just a different level of parenting and different needs. And they're so much more independent.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, and honestly, we do that anyway. Like we want to get the weakest link to bed as soon as possible during the week as well. We sound like we just don't want our kids around, but it's hard. It's hard. And then the last thing I'll say, and I don't know if you have anything else to add, but something else I found helpful is just the mindset around this. Like, I know that this is for a season, and as someone who's like living it as close to possible as actually doing it myself, I know that it's not easy for you, and you come home and now you're just, it's, you know, as far as we're concerned, as far as the kids are concerned, you've been on a beach in Hawaii, but you come home and you have all the stuff to do at home. You have your current job, like your day-to-day job stuff. You might not have slept, and then cumulatively you haven't slept for the whole week, and the kids are excited to see you, and it's a lot of responsibility to come home, have 3 children and a wife, and like you never get time to just decompress, and it's really hard. But I try and think of this as like, this is something we need to do together as a family, and it's not going to be forever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, no, completely.
Is it going to be forever? Oh my gosh. I can hear the trash guy
I'm
in the
just
back.
laughing because you can see the trash.
You can see the trash in the back.
Yeah.
Well, you know,
And
this is real life.
Welcome to Austin. Yeah, I think the last thing I want to say is, you know, tell us what you struggle with when you solo parent, or if you travel, what's really hard for you. Are there any tips or tricks that you think we should add? And
what has worked for you?
Yeah, and so let us know in the comments down below.
The comments down below. Oh, you're getting so good at this now.
Comments down below. And you know, happy to give our perspective on a variety of these things. I mean, it's not easy, but I think just with prep and planning, you can really make it easier. You can't make it easy, but you can make it easier.
Yeah, I feel like the number one tip is going to be like, get a grandma.
Yeah.
I don't know where you buy a grandma, but I haven't found one for sale. So yeah, so if this is a video that added value to your life or you enjoyed it, then please make sure you go ahead and subscribe, give this video a big like, and as Ryan said, let us know your experience with travel and kids and all of the things, because I think it's a common practice for a lot of people. I mean, considering how many people are doing business travel all the time.
And also COVID, everyone's, you know, working remotely. I bumped into a bunch of people in the airport in Austin who are all doing the same thing, traveling to New York or LA or wherever they were previously for work. So
yeah, I think it's so interesting because post-COVID, so many people moved to places like Austin and Nashville and Idaho and these like states that are not considered like business hubs, but they still have work in all of these other big cities, and so the airports are buzzing at like 5 a.m. on a Monday morning because everyone needs to travel, but they want the lifestyle that a place like Texas affords. So it's just an interesting cultural shift that we're in right now. It's no longer people being in the office 9 to 5, staying in the same job for 30 years and never moving. Anyway, that's a conversation for another day. But yeah, thank you so much. I feel like I'm always on a Zoom call when you're on the podcast, but you know, it's an interesting perspective. We brought the business to the podcast, and we can't wait to see you in our next video. Bye. Bye.